Well, the project was made over 3 years, and for lots of different reasons, financial reasons, to spread the cost. Also, I'm not resident in the northeast, so it was this idea that over a period of time, I would capture, my interpretation of the industry. The studio was a mobile studio, being a black backdrop and the camera and tripod. I liked this idea that I could make the studio wherever I went at that particular time. The system that I designed was one where everybody would be given the same treatment. So the lighting was the same, the backdrop was consistent, despite the fact that we're all shot on location. I had to keep this continuity because I knew that I was going to be working in very difficult, busy working situations. So that was something that I planned in the beginning, but it didn't make the experience less. It was, kind of presented to me in these terms, so I had to accept it. In terms of the working environment, that was really tricky to start with. It probably took me about 6 months to make myself known to the community. It's a very close-knit community and a very amiable community, but nonetheless I was an outsider. Even as a Scot, I was outside of that community. I never had any sort of bad language, but people have made it quite known that they just don't want to be photographed. And I think you learn to just accept it. You can't persuade somebody. I've tried. It doesn't work. Mm-hmm. If you pull somebody in front of the camera, you'll never get the portrait that you're after. All the people that I've ever photographed have actually allowed themselves to be there. I always think that a portrait is a collaboration. It's as much their portrait. They've created that portrait with me. It's not my portrait of them. We've done it together. They don't realise that they're making it with me. And I think for any photographer to come across somebody like Derry was a gift. Yeah, I think he's otherworldly. It's hard to believe that he is a contemporary. And that's how I found him. There was none of the portraits were made up. They were all made in a working environment. And he asked to take the net off his shoulder, and I insisted that he keep it on. Next to the harbour master's office there's a small shed, and John the harbour master would allow me, give me the key in the morning. I'd turn up at 6:30 in the morning, and I would set my camera up, and then I would then go out and look for sitters. So I would walk along the harbour, I'd go to the fish market, and I would speak to people. And I think people need to realise that being a portrait photographer, it never gets any easier asking people. I've been doing this for years and years now, but I still find it hard. But as I moved along the coast into different situations, harbours, shipyards, I had to go through that whole process of introducing myself. But at that point, I'd started to make work. So what I did was I took along smaller portraits from the series and showed them to the managers of the shipyards and the gutting factories. And they knew that, but also I think word got out, but they knew that I had a focus and that I was determined to actually make a good and fair record of an industry. And I liked that challenge. I think initially it was a challenge, and you kind of wonder why you've kind of given yourself such a difficult task. But as you kind of master it and as you become confident, you realise that it was a good decision. And I find that with everything that I do. The last bodywork that I just finished, Nora in Stone, I used a 5.4 camera in Muirhouse there that I grew up in. And it seemed like a great idea at the time. And when I started it, I just found it really, really arduous. It was really difficult. Mm-hmm. But that's only because I just wasn't used to the working process. But in time, you kind of master it, and then you start to realise that it was the right decision. I was very, very conscious that that I needed to actually get women in the project. I think it was really hard in the beginning. It was much easier to get other occupations in industry. The men were much more willing, I have to say, and it was probably maybe 6 months after starting that I probably had the courage to approach a lot of the workers in the factories. And I think once I'd kind of made one or two, I realised that this was really important for the project. But it was a conscious decision for sure. I think there's a lot of kind of how I feel about women and the influence that I've had in my life from women. So I suppose you could say that there's a nod of the hat to kind of how I feel. So in that respect, it's my language and it's my portrayal of women, and that's a highly personal thing. And that's where lineage stops, because you've got to do what you think is right for you. So the Artsy portrayal of women is kind of arrives from me. I think everything that we do is about our response to the world that we live in. I know that everything that I am interested in making is about how I see the world. It's about my experience. Essentially, you know, whether we're artists or, you know, whatever we are, I think fundamentally the thing that makes art interesting is it's made by a human being.